The truth has finally been leaked between all-star point guard Ja Morant and this Miami Heat organization. I'm here to break down all of the new information that we have, including whether or not it looks like this Heat team will actually pursue the all-star point guard out of Memphis and Ja Morant this season and what would be a blockbuster trade. We'll break down all of that on this episode of Heat Digest, but first, please do remember this video is brought to you by Kalshi. If you use the link down in the description and use code DIGESTNBA when signing up, you will be given $20 after you trade your first 100. You can trade on basically any real-life event, from sports to elections to even the weather. And if you want to get in on the action right now, you can trade on the Miami Heat's win percentage tonight, or the chances the Miami Heat do win tonight against the Phoenix Suns, as they are hosting the Suns in Miami at the Kaseya Center. And right now, at a 7-7 tie, Phoenix holds a 46% chance to win, as Miami maintains a 54% chance. Not only that, but we're going to be referencing Kalshi later in this video for Ja Morant's new teams and the expectations that are riding with this Miami Heat organization. So let's not waste any more time and get to the truth about Ja going to Miami. Now, a lot of Heat Nation is very indecisive and in between on this conversation whether or not they would like to see Ja Morant land in Miami. And I'm here to tell you there's only a few situations where I think Miami would or should go out and try to make this trade. We'll get to that in just a few seconds, but let's give you a bit of context first. If you guys don't know, in the last 2 weeks or so, we got this report from Shams, the top insider covering the game of professional basketball, that the Memphis Grizzlies may be very much into the idea of trading Ja Morant and are actually listening to offers for their all-star point guard, who is very disgruntled right now with his role and what is going on in Memphis. Later, we got a lot of other reports along the ideas of, hey, he may be available, but he's going to be very pricey. Then there were reports that specific teams like Miami, Minnesota, Sacramento, and others were going to be involved with Ja Morant, but they didn't know of how much of a market and how much of a price tag those teams were going to have to pay in order to bring that all-star point guard to their organization. Based off what we've learned in the last few hours, it seems like not only is Ja Morant's favorite in the sense of which team is going to acquire him this season via a monster trade, it seems like not only is Miami taking a drastic leap up. If you notice, going back to, January 9th, their odds peaked, then things leveled out again, and then again today, January 13th, they had a 4% chance to sign Ja Morant, or a 4% chance to be Ja Morant's next team. And in the last few hours, things spiked to nearly 50%, actually surpassing 50% before leveling out to where it is now at 44%. Miami looks to be the favorite to go out and acquire Ja Morant this season in what would be a blockbuster trade. Now, they're not the only team involved in conversations, but based off of Kalshi's actual market and what is going on Kalshi, they are the favorite. But based off of other information, I don't know if Miami's actually involved in these talks. And if they are, I think it's just strictly just a feeling out process, trying to see what is the asking price. Hey, could Terry Rozier straight up for John? Like those type of conversations. Once again, if that's the case, do the trade, Miami. But odds are Terry Rozier cannot be traded. We got this quote from Zach Lowe on the Heat and the Ja Morant rumors. Quote, "I don't see a huge amount of interest from Miami." Now, that is interesting because if Miami's not all that interested, this trade is not going to happen, obviously, unless the price tag is extremely low. If you trade for Ja Morant right now, you get the remainder of this 2025 and 2026 NBA season, as well as 2 more years in the future, which would be his age 26 to 28 age season before Ja Morant became an unrestricted free agent. So you'd have roughly 2.5 seasons of Ja Morant a part of your organization. Now, Ja Morant, we all know, is a hell of a basketball player, but over this season and over the last stretch of time, when he is active, which isn't all that often, he hasn't been all that productive. Now, could you paint a lot of that onto the idea that he's stuck in a place where he doesn't want to be, where he doesn't want to go out and physically perform? Most likely, it seems like that happens a lot with Jimmy Butler last year. We all know, and we've witnessed that on a first-hand basis as Heat fans. He didn't want to be here. When he was on the floor, it didn't seem like he was all that productive. And again, that was a rarity. It feels like the same type of scenario going on with Memphis and Ja Morant. If you go back to the earlier seasons, though, where Ja was having fun and had his joy, if you will, to cite something Jimmy Butler had said and used back when he was disgruntled in Miami, the production overall was fantastic from John Morant. 26, 27, 26, 25, 22 points per game, most improved player in the running for MVPs, multiple time All-Star in a very daunting Western Conference. Now, if you put him in Miami playing alongside Bam Adebayo and Kel'el Ware in pick and roll actions, despite Miami not being a pick and roll team specifically this season, if you implement John Morant at the point guard position with those two bigs, the pick and roll game would be absolutely terrifying for any and everybody that matches up with Miami. But are they actually going to do it? They have the pieces they could go out and move, but who's untouchable, who is not? I'm assuming the only players Miami is looking to possibly move are possibly Simon Fontecchio, Terry Rozier, possibly Tyler Hero, depending on the asking price and the return to Miami, as well as maybe, and I mean maybe, Nikola Jovic, depending on how Miami's currently sitting. I know they just extended him this past offseason, but up to this point in the season, he has been very lackluster, and it doesn't seem like he's going anywhere unless they are very, very tempted in the sense of whether and possibly Terry Rozier and Jovic in exchange for John Morant. I could possibly see how Miami could look at that and feel like they couldn't turn it away because of the lucrative amount of return they are getting back. Again, let me know down below because the overall responses to the idea of John Morant coming to Miami, not only on this channel, but across the social media platforms of Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, whatever it may be, is very in between. It feels like a vast majority of you guys are against John Morant, and I understand that. Unless the price tag is extremely low, and I mean extremely low, I don't believe anyone should go out there and acquire John Morant unless they're in a very, very difficult situation where they absolutely need a point guard, and the asking price, again, is not so high where they don't have to fully handicap and reset their team and organization in order to acquire him. Last thing we are going to point out, which may be the most impactful piece of information we're going to cite on this episode, is this from Legion Hoops as they cite Kevin O'Connor. Teams aren't expected to offer any unprotected first-round picks in a trade for John Morant. Things are getting spicy. Because if you don't have to give up a first-round pick for someone who's only 26 years of age, who you're going to have for 2.5 more seasons, it may be worth it. It depends on what the player personnel in return to Memphis is actually going to be. But if it's not a king's ransom, it doesn't result in what would be a blockbuster trade outside of John Morant being moved, it may be worth calling Memphis. It really and truly may be worth calling Memphis. If Terry Rozier can be moved for this Miami Heat team and they can package him for John Morant, please, please do it. We don't know if that's the case yet. We will learn by the day as if Miami's actually intrigued by this, which based off the quotes from Zach Lowe, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of interest. If Terry Rozier can be used in this trade, and Memphis is willing to accept Rozier's contract and take on the obligation of maintaining him, Miami better do it. Because there's no world where you can trade one for another, regardless of what is being attached, unless it's outlandish, obviously, for Miami. Why would they not get rid of that? Even if, I know what we've seen in the past, the recency from in Memphis from John Morant. But if you could move one for the other, do it for Miami. Again, let me know down below your overall thoughts and opinions, and I'll see you on the next episode of Heat Digest.